space.
Hello and welcome to the 2020 Toyota GR Supra GT Cup. We're back for the second running here today for round 3 of the One Make Championship. My name is Tom Brooks, alongside me Jimmy Broadbent. Jimmy, we're here today to find the world's best Supra driver. It's going to be quite exciting, I reckon.
Yeah, I think so too. Always a big fan of this One Make series here with the Toyota GR Supra, of course. Very much the start of our show today. 380 horsepower, just over 1,500 kilograms from that 3-litre straight 6 engine in front. A car that I've had the pleasure of seeing in person when we were in Paris back at the first World Tour event last year. Very pretty in-game and in person too. And a really cool feature about this is when we were speaking to the father of the Toyota Supra, he was saying that the car is going to be changed in-game based on feedback from the players, which is a completely unique experience and great to see it being taken so seriously.
Absolutely, yeah, it really is exciting to see how this is going to be developed over its lifetime within Gran Turismo. Let's take a closer look, shall we, at some of the information here today. The circuit in particular we'll look at first of all, the Circuit de la Sarthe in Le Mans in France, a track that really needs no introduction. If you've not heard of Le Mans, what on earth are you doing here? Get yourself on to that as soon as you can. 13.6 kilometres long, a track that, Jimmy, you know very well indeed.
Yeah, I've driven here far too many times. Not a bad thing, of course, though. One of my favourite circuits to drive. So you might think, hey, that looks pretty simple. It's just straight lines. Not at all. Those braking zones are deceptively difficult. Acceleration zones and corner exit is very, very important around here for lap time. And that final section from Arnage down to the Ford chicane is just a roller coaster. A fantastic section of track, and one that I think, as you say, Tom, you all should know and love. And for me, I've been very, very fortunate to be there. I went there in 2015 for the real-life race, and the atmosphere of the place. And just some of these scenic shots here in GT Sport, it does a very good job of capturing some of that. In fact, this next shot coming up, I actually stood slightly to the right there and watched cars go through, and it turns out they're quite quick through there, Tom. It's quite cool to watch.
Well, the Supra drivers probably won't be keeping an eye out for you on track there today, Jimmy. I think it's fair to say I've been fortunate enough to be here as well, and it's a track that oozes character from every inch of tarmac. And let's take a closer look, shall we, at the race details before we get too wishy-washy about this Le Mans circuit, shall we? The Toyota GR Supra GT Cup then. 4 laps here at the Circuit de la Sarthe today. Sports hard tyres available for these drivers, but 15 times tyre wear, 2 times fuel consumption. I'm intrigued to see how worn those tyres are going to be at the end of this race, Jimmy.
Yeah, that 15 times tyre wear is pretty gnarly, to be honest, especially even on the sports hard tyres. So on that last lap, corner exit especially, of course these rear-wheel drive cars here are going to be quite tricky getting that power down. And as the penalties around here, probably 2 of the most punishing penalty lines in GT Sport. The one just after Touch Rouge, after T8 on your map there, and one just after Arnage, after T18. If you have a penalty there, you're going to lose an absolute ton of time. So keeping it clean around here is going to be really important for position.
You can see the drivers had a 7-minute 30-second qualifying duration, so they know how the grid is going to line up. We don't at the moment, so let's go over to it, shall we, and find out who starts where. Lining up on the grid here ahead of this race for round 3 of the Toyota GR Supra GT Cup. You can see all of these cars adorning different liveries. Nick McCosey, otherwise known as Cody Nikola Lukovsky, lines up on pole position. Alongside here is Metal Gear 9493. That is Dan Holland as we know him. The second row of the grid, Emily Jones. She has had a good qualifying session there. Alongside her is SR Bryan in 4th position. Very distinctive livery on his car. Next up, Dylan Lindgren in P5. And 6th position on that 3rd row as well is Cy Dog, otherwise known of course as Cy Bishop. He again has been busy with the paint on this one. Notice for Blue lines up in P7. Another driver who's been very busy with the paint and looks like he's had some goggles on for that as well. Amazing how it lines up in 8th position alongside him. 9th place is Nick McKen. And alongside him, rounding out the top 10, Iron Mask 7.5. Again, another very distinctive Japanese-inspired livery there. GTB Legend is in 11th position. And alongside him is TVR, I should say, 427. The next row headed by El Rico 94 in 13th. Heading further down the order alongside him is Ramboost Tezza in 14th position. The next row of the grid is UNC Pubs 16. And in 16th place, AE McEwen. 17th position on the grid, Viper Z. And 18th position, the only 2019 Supra, that's Rosmo 13. And the final row of the grid completed by Captain Muffin 88 in 19th position, with his hazard sat there on. And Unemployed Stoney rounds out the 20 drivers here on the grid. So Jimmy, what do you think is going to happen down towards that first corner then?
Well, 20 cars on the grid here, Tom, so everyone's going to be nice and clean. Otherwise, it's going to be just a string of penalties to everyone. But good place to make up position, so I'm sure we'll see some opportunities out there.
Lights out and we go green then. Nick McCosey gets the field underway ahead of Metal Gear 9493. Everybody trying to dart into the slipstream and get an advantage on their fellow competitors. Good start there from Emily Jones. She's up into 3rd position, drawing alongside SR Bryan in 4th place. Look at the midfield as well, so action-packed, but where do you break down towards that second corner? Not there for Emily Jones. That's a bit too late into the back of Metal Gear 9493, and as a result of that, you can see she's picked up a 1-second penalty following that contact, threading the eye of a needle though as they go through that Dunlop chicane, coming down in towards the next section of the lap. Nick McCosey holds on to his lead, but how long is he going to be able to hold on to that for? Because on that multi-arm straight, that is where the slipstream is going to be very effective in these one-make cars. Yeah,
that penalty for Emily Jones has come at the worst possible time. She'll be serving it, I think, coming around this right hand, which means she's going to just go plummeting back down the grid. If not, will be served outside of Arnage. But on the first lap, while the cars are all bunched together, is the worst time to get a penalty. Here is Amazing Hour down in 8th position right now. He's ahead of the second pack. Behind us, Notice for Blue and Nick Macklin as well in the background, just pulling away a little bit. And as Tom said, this is where the slipstream starts to come in now. Le Mans, very much a slipstreaming circuit. You can see the speedometer in the bottom right-hand corner there for Amazing Hour. 160 mile an hour down the straight, even before the draft, as the cars come snaking down towards the first chicane.
Running on board here with Ramboost Tezza then in 11th position, trying to go up the inside. Look at that, 2 into 1. for Rambo Cesar. Oh, and a very late lunge there on the brakes and contact as well in front. That's TBR 427, who has gone straight into the side and become a missile there into the first chicane. So, well, big drama, and that's caused a few drivers to go tumbling down the order. Unsurprisingly, a penalty there for him, as well as we saw Matt McEwen down in 20th position. So he's obviously had some dramas on the start of this race.
Old Cesar there got the short end of the stick. He got rammed off the course and then got reset back to 19th place. So that's his race pretty much already done. Meanwhile, in front of the field, Cody's still ahead of Metal Gear here. So, of course, Cody versus Dan Holland, two of the, I think it's fair to say, superstars of the Oceania region, especially lately as well, with Dan Holland's resurgence in pace from last year. On board now with Dan Holland, aka Metal Gear 9493, in the tow, coming down to the bottom corner here, the Mulsanne corner. Cody going defensive though on the inside line, doesn't want to give up the race lead just yet, but really, I think realistically, you've got to work together a little bit around here, because the tow is going to go back and forth, and if you're fighting so much, as I say, that fighting, as Dan Holland sweeps around the outside of Cody there, that is very assertive from the Australian driver, and now leads up towards Indianapolis. But of course, as I was about to say, Tom, he's now given the tow to Cody.
Yeah, exactly right. You can see the brake disc glowing red as they went down in towards the Arnage corner. It's just phenomenal, isn't it, to see that for these drivers really pushing very hard indeed. And this is the thing, how do you pull out a gap when you've got spec racing like this? When you're just a one-make series, how difficult is it to pull out an advantage over a competitor?
I mean, you have the same set of tools as the guy behind you, essentially. So it's all down to driver skill and knowledge of the circuit, and that's where the really good guys separate themselves from the good guys. If you come down to Indianapolis now, you see the weight transfer of these cars. They are just road cars. Of course, you have got quite a sporty suspension on these GR Supras, but not compared to a racing car. So you see a little bit of body roll as you go into the corners here, and the drivers have to account for that as well. And of course, we're in that sport hard compound of tyre, which is nowhere near as grippy as a slick tyre. So it's kind of what I like about this series. It offers a unique challenge to our drivers.
Just taking a look at drivers who have won and lost off the start. Good start for Cy Bishop, who's made up a couple of positions into P4. Has now gone down, though, a little bit. Iron Mars, meanwhile, he's made up 5 places now into 5th from 10th off the start of the grid. However, the big winners off the opener, Viper Z and Captain Muffin, 88 into 9th and 10th position respectively. They made up 8 and 9 places each on the start. So that's very impressive indeed there. As towards the Porsche Curves then, here we can see Iron Mars harrying the back of SR Bryan, who has had a bit of a challenging start to this race, hasn't gone particularly forwards, is coming under a lot of pressure from behind, as you can see, and going through these Porsche Curves. Is it only going to be a matter of time before these drivers are able to find their way past? We'll have to wait and see what happens, but doesn't seem to have the pace to just close up onto the back of Dylan Lindgren, who's just in the front of it. And here is LR Amazing Hour, ready to do a bit of a move maybe in towards the Ford chicane.
There we are, then. Not really an overtaking spot unless you're really side by side down here. Looks like Amazing Hour's going to have a quick look, tucks back in, then behind. If you go one at a time, going through the Ford chicane. Now there's really high curbs either side here. Very easy to just tap one of those and get the car sideways. As there you go, as I say, Amazing Hour does just that, but is up there in 6th place, being harried by Emily Jones, who had a bit of an appalling first lap, really. Lost, I think it was 4 places from her position 3rd on the grid. As we come on to lap 2 now. Great battle here at the start of the midfield as Brian is defending from Iron Mars. Amazing Hour in there as well. There's Emily Jones and Sidog hanging on to the back of that picture. Dylan Lindgren has a small gap there in 3rd position, but they'll all be drafting down there. And a penalty there for Amazing Hour for what we assume must be track limits. Same as well behind for Emily. Another penalty for Emily Jones. Things going from bad to worse.
Disappointing there for Emily Jones, as you said, Jimmy. Started really, really strongly, but it's just not worked out for her so far here at all. You can see her getting sideways coming through the right-hander as they head through Tetra Rouge then for the 2nd time. We're already heading towards the halfway stage in this race, believe it or not. And, well, they're not the fastest cars in the world here, over 4 minutes a lap at the Circuit de la Sarthe, but it does provide very entertaining racing. Now, here is Iron Mars, we're right on board with him in 5th position, coming down the Mulsanne straight. Is he going to be able to attack Brian in front? In 4th position, of course, he's going to be having to defend. Meanwhile, look at Metal Gear 9493 and Nick Nicosi. Then, of course, it's Dan Holland and Cody Nikololikovsky. They're still dueling side by side, but they've pulled out a 4-second gap to 3rd place, so they've been clearly working together very well here off the start, and that is good to see for those two. This could become a 2-way scrap for the race lead if things stay as they are. At the moment, it's Dan ahead of Cody.
The way these guys are fighting to put out a nearly 4-second gap to the rest of the field is damn impressive, I must say, at this point. But I think it's fair to say they've got something a little bit extra over the other guys, haven't they? They just seem to have a little bit more pace around it, a bit more understanding of how the car works. And onboard camera there of Cody in the Toyota GR Supra as we come now down to the second chicane. Good place to overtake if you're alongside. Cody not quite close enough though. I think maybe erring on the side of caution a little bit as we come down to the second chicane, and now maybe trying to set himself up for a pass at the Mulsanne corner down to the bottom here. This is the thing, you have to sort of time your passes with the knowledge of what's coming next. If you're going for a lunge, maybe coming out of a second chicane, then the guy behind is going to get the draft all the way down to the Mulsanne corner down the bottom here where these guys are approaching at the moment. So it's a very high-speed game of chess, this, and we're going to have to wait until the last lap to see who wins it.
Yeah, certainly are. Meanwhile, great start. I was just about to say for unemployed Stoney, but he has just been given a penalty for one reason or another. Started 20th on the grid, is now up into P11 on this second lap, so things have gone well relatively for him speaking. However, not quite so far because he's been given that penalty for one reason or another down in P11. It's so close up and down the field. You can see lots of drivers separated by just a few tenths of a second. This is the closest duel on track, and perhaps you could argue one of the most important as well for this race lead. Now Cody is back into the slipstream. Is he going to try and get past Dan Holland here, or is he going to lift off and just sit behind him a little bit more? He's got a good run coming through the right-hander as they head in towards Indianapolis, then pulls towards the inside. Does he lunge anything up the inside? Not quite, just bides his time very carefully. And it's so difficult to do that. It's very easy to get suckered in onto the brakes, just go a bit too hot into there, and that could really cost you quite dear.
Yeah, it's a section where if you get it wrong, you can carry the mistake all the way through, and as you say, you end up off in the gravel trap if you're not being careful enough. Meanwhile, Metal Gear still leading from Nick McCosey, Dan Holland versus Cody Nikola Lakowski. In the background, Dylan Lindgren still sort of there, but you can see the gap now to that second train of cars. And 3.6 seconds, there is no draft back there, so you are not getting the benefit of following the car in front. You have to punch the hole yourself, essentially, for the cars behind. Coming up now to my favourite part of the circuit. This is the Porsche Curves. Extremely fast, extremely fun-flowing part of the course here. This is where you want to have a bit of downforce, really, but these road cars, Toyota GR Supras, don't really have any downforce, not much anyway. A little bit generated by that rear wing diffuser and splitter at the front there, but not nothing like we see from a race car. So again, a completely different challenge round here as they lean on the outside tyre around there. This is where those guys who are a bit more experienced with road cars will show their speed over those who are not.
My one abiding memory of driving this car when it launched on GT Sport last year was just how tail happy the thing was. It was so easy to slide, and as you said, Jimmy, not a lot of downforce, sports hard tyres. We are seeing drivers kicking the backside out quite a lot more than we would do with the racing variants of these machines, and it does make it so much more difficult to drive it on the edge and at the limit, doesn't it?
It makes it more entertaining though. Race cars are a lot more about precision. These are more about just throwing it around and finding the best speed through. And even though those hard tyres are at 15 times tyre wear, they'll still take a hell of a beating, those things, those sport hard tyres. They'll go pretty much all day around here. Going back down the field a little bit, here's Emily Jones again, still further down than she would like to be. I can say that for sure. In 9th position after starting from 3rd, looking like maybe she's going to take 8th away from Amazing Hour here, coming up to the Dunlop chicane again. Starts up the inside, thank you very much, she says, I'll take that. And now she got a little bit of work to get onto the back of Viper Z. This is the thing around here though, is you get caught in these little groups as we're seeing here. It's a bit like cycling almost in that regard. We have different groups going around and kind of slipstreaming each other. It's the same here at Le Mans in these GR Supras. But Emily now has to try and make the jump to the next group above and then pull up from there. But that's where the challenge comes. Meanwhile, 4th, 5th and 6th in your picture, Viper Z and 7th there just coming through as well. Brian leading this patch, and Iron Mask in that, very... I'm not really a fan of those images, to be honest. It's a bit too garish for me.
That's saying something from your taste as well, mate, to be honest.
Excuse me. How dare you. But yeah, it's definitely noticeable. We'll say that. Here is Sidewalk on board now. You're going to get an idea of what the draft does. An on-board view from Simon. As we come now down towards the first chicane, Iron Mask on the inside. We're going to just pull away from that for a second, but I'm fairly sure Iron Mask would have got that move done with that positioning.
Yeah, just looking here at this battle continuing on for the race lead between Dan Holland and Cody Lakowski in 1st and 2nd place respectively in this race. You hear the helicopter going overhead as these drivers race down. Still racing for 5th position as well between Brian and Cy then. Side by side they come down the Mulsanne. Iron Mask just in front of the shot. So they're about to head down in towards the 2nd chicane. On the inside will be Cydog against Brian then. Will he be able to outbrake him? Such a close match in terms of straight line speed. Look in the background as well, because it looks like Viper Z and Emre are going side by side as well. Side doesn't outbrake Brian into there. He's getting very close, but not quite close enough to launch a challenge. Likewise, Emily on the back of Viper here for 7th position. So all these drivers running very, very similar pace to one another, but not able to mount any challenges yet, or maybe just biding their time, maybe setting something up and pulling a dummy in preparation for a lunge on the final lap, perhaps. It's a crucial question, is when do you strike? You don't want to strike too soon. Sai looks like he's about to try and have a move here on Brian, but again, pulls back into that slipstream, thinks better of it. Just playing the long game is the crucial thing here.
Yeah, and that long game is going to be up on the next lap, so now just, as you said, just trying to position yourselves to get prepared for that. There's be a great shot there from the back of Brian's car, watching the cars try and negotiate the Mulsanne corner, one of the slowest corners on the circuit. When you're driving down the straight at 170 mile an hour, going through that corner feels like a crawl, I can tell you that now. I mean, can't, by the way, overstate just how much of a good race Viper Z has had. In 7th place right now, up 10 positions from their grid slot in 17th. So it's been a great drive by Viper Z to get that high up. We'll see if they can go any further as this race draws closer and closer to its conclusion. There is Brian there, Sarthe looking up the inside, coming towards Indianapolis, has tucked back in again. Oh, I think maybe there might have been a... Yep, I thought there was a little bit of contact there. And Saya... Oh, and then comes back on, hits Emily Jones as well. Not a great rejoin there for Brian, but where's he going to go in that situation? An amazing hour takes back the place. And yeah, that was all caused by Sidog, who has picked up a 1-second penalty for that. So... just happens sometimes. Sometimes you just misjudge the braking zone, the guy in front gets fired off, and that's that. Yeah,
it cost him very near there, has Sidog, and as you said, for Brian there as well, those drivers going down a couple of positions respectively. Need that like a canoe needs a handbrake, unfortunately, there for Sidog down in 9th position. Meanwhile, just in front of that, you can see Emily Jones putting the pressure onto the back of LR Amazing Hour. Is she going to be able to launch a challenge? Is Nick McCosey going to launch a challenge? Is he just biding his time very carefully and setting things up nicely for this final lap? You can see he's clipping the apexes, whereas in front, Dan Holland there just running a little bit wide. That'll compromise his run through the second part of these Porsche Curves. Is that going to compromise his drive coming out of it as well? And is Nick McCosey going to think about a move then? Cody Nikololikovsky, the driver who we ride on board with, of course, very, very competitive in these Toyota Supras, as you're seeing on your screen at the moment, and as we have seen in the past as well. Just to remind you, this is round 3. Look how deep Dan Holland was into the Ford chicane, rather, I should say, and that is going to potentially compromise him through here as well. He looks like he's on the back foot here, a little bit raggedy compared to Cody Lukovsky, who's a bit tidier, I think it's fair to say. Is that going to be crucial as we head on to the final lap? Yeah, you get the impression that Cody's just sort of waiting at the moment. I think he understands that he can't pull away from Dan Holland in front if he did decide to go for the overtake, so maybe he'll wait to a point where Dan won't get another chance. That'll probably be coming out of our nose at this point, but we'll see. That's what I'm guessing so far. Oh, big! That's a big one, Nick. Oh my God, Cody's picked up a 1-second penalty. Must have been for track limits because there was no contact there from what I saw. That's a big deal there for Cody. That's going to pretty much put paid to his efforts here, unless he can somehow get back onto the rear end of Dan Holland. But a second penalty round here is a big chunk of time, especially as the penalty zone is coming up right now. Well, we know that Cody is a driver who does not give up in any way, shape or form, so his best chance is to try and get himself ahead of Dan Holland if he can. As you said, Jimmy, about to come into that penalty zone very shortly indeed. Is he going to have a lunge on the back of him? Is he going to be able to try and invent something then? Pulls to the outside because, of course, Dan Holland goes defensive. Dylan Lindgren in 3rd place has also picked up a penalty for one reason or another there as well. Here comes Cody into the race lead then, pulling alongside. You can just see in the background there Dylan Lindgren still going side by side for this lead. Hard on the brakes we go in towards the first chicane then. Oh, that is very aggressive. A bit of a squeeze there, I think. Maybe a little bit of contact from Dan Holland on the side of Cody Lukovsky. Coming into that penalty zone though, this is where it's going to compromise. We've got a 1.5-second penalty. It goes from bad to worse there for Cody Lukovsky. Is that going to cost him the race win here on this final lap of the Toyota GR Supra GT Cup? It could potentially do so. Just to remind you, by the way, if you have just joined us, these races are not live stewarded like we have in our World Tour events. They are stewarded in-game, essentially, so it's not like a steward awards that penalty. It's awarded within the game. It deemed Cody to have exceeded the track limits there twice, so he gets that 1.5-second penalty, and that could potentially cost him the win here. Yeah, I think Cody has got the second part of the penalty, maybe for some sort of issue, but meanwhile, Dylan. Just about to say, Iron Master's just gotten through into 3rd place there ahead of Dylan Lindgren on this final lap. Penalty we saw for Dylan Lindgren there, and it's cost him the podium.
Yeah, just watching Dylan there, I think in frustration, try and just get out of the second chicane as quick as possible. 0.9 of a lead now for Iron Mask, but I think that it's going to be Dylan will be able to bring that back in the slipstream. But that's a big shame for Cody. That really is, we're kind of robbed of a fast finish there. But that happens sometimes. You've got to play by the rules in GT Sport. If you don't, you get a slap from the penalty system. And Cody got a slap twice, in fact, actually. Is on board with Emily Jones. Also was got wrecked by the penalty system there. Made a bit of a lunge up towards Arnage. Around Mulsanne corner. I'm surprised that was within track limit. She went well outside the curb there, but made it stick. I don't think that Brian saw it coming, but a move's a move, and Emily goes up into 7th place. But now, of course, she's going to be given the slipstream back to Brian. They're both pulling up onto Amazing Hour in front, so this could possibly be a battle for 6th if these guys don't fight too hard.
So it's getting very interesting indeed. They're riding on board here with Brian in 8th position, coming down now in towards Indianapolis then. Emre there still sits in 7th place. Brian, biding his time, going sideways through Indianapolis, heading into the left-hander, then heading into the right, which follows. A bit wide there for Amazing Hour in the front of your shot. Hard on the brakes. Is anybody going to make a move? Not quite there. Now Nick Mikosi, Cody Lukovsky, the driver who of course was battling for this win, is coming under pressure for 2nd place here potentially as well. Iron Marks is coming alive in these last stages.
No, Cody's made a mistake somewhere, Tom. He's down 8 seconds back now. He was only 3 or 4 seconds back after the penalty, so there's been a mistake there, probably due to frustration for Cody. But he can hang on to 2nd place, but he's got to get it together for this last few laps. He might have worn the tyres a bit, I don't know. He's been quite clean when we were watching him before, but maybe just frustration there creeping in for Cody as we come through the Porsche Curves for the last time. 8 seconds ahead of us is Dan Holland in the Metal Gear 9493 car. He's had a fantastic race as Dan Holland to keep things going, and as we come in now to the final few corners.
So Nick Mikosi is going to take 2nd position, and if he can just hold on, but it is going to be Dan Holland, Metal Gear 9493, who's coming through into the final series of corners then. What a great drive, kept his calm head under pressure, and it has proven to be an inspired drive for the Toyota Supra driver. Round the final corner he comes now to take the win in round 3 of the Toyota GR Supra GT Cup for the Oceania region. Over the timeline he comes. Dan Holland takes the win then. Is Nick Mikosi, Cody Lukovsky? Yes, he is going to hold on to 2nd position, and Iron Mars then will take 3rd place. He got that ahead of Dylan Lindgren on the final lap. Viper's Ed with a great drive, up 12 positions off his starting order, finishes in the top 5 there, ahead of LR Amazing Hour, Emre, Brian, Sidog down in 9th position. Captain Muffin 88 rounds out the top 10 as the rest of the field comes over the timing line. But a very exciting end to that race. A promising final lap that, it held so much promise. It didn't deliver necessarily. It did deliver, though, for this man here of Dan Holland. Great drive from the Australian to take the win in that race. Very, very promising result here for him. What is it going to mean, though, for the championship standings? We'll find out in just a few moments' time as the last runners come over the timing line then here. It's going to be A.E. McEwen who will be the last of the classified finishers here for round 3 of this Toyota Supra GT Cup. You can see the final results then on your screen. Metal Gear, Nick Mikosi, Iron Mars take the top 3 positions on the podium here. Lindgren and Viper's Ed complete the top 5 ahead of Amazing Hour, Emre and Brian down in 8th position. Great races from all of these drivers. What was your particular highlight there, Jimmy?
I think it's just the reassurance that penalties around here make the difference. You know, we saw Nick pick up a penalty, we saw Emery pick up a penalty, and that basically dictated their races, completely ruined it for him. Yeah, absolutely right. So the rest of the drivers, you can see a little bit further down the order there. 20 started, 19 drivers took the checkered flag. And you can see there TBR 427 with that, well, I think fair to say, very aggressive lunge on that opening lap, cost him very dear, down in 17th place, ahead of GTB legend. A.E. McEwen, the last of the classified runners. Rossmo, sadly, did not make the finish. So that is the final standings then in the race of round 3 of the 2020 Supra Cup. Then let's see what it means for the championship standings. Here are the points rankings then after round 3 of the Supra Cup. Then you can see that Nick Mikosi
sits at the top of the pile ahead of Metal Gear 9493. Very close between those two drivers there, Jimmy, and also pretty close a little bit further down the top 10 as well.
So the point standings sort of reflect the race as well, the top two being in their own little league and the rest of them being very bunched together down there, of course. Adam there, a bit of a gap between second and fourth respectively, but after that it gets quite tight there. So I think basically we're in a situation where we're quite early on in the series. One good result can mean you fly up the standings and one bad one means you just drop off the end. So still a lot to play for though.
Well, on that note, if you want to get involved with the Toyota GR Supra GT Cup, round 4 takes place on the 21st of June at Laguna Seca. Get yourself involved, get on to GT Sport, click on Sport Mode, and you'll find all of the details on there. From Jimmy Broadbent and from myself, Tom Brooks, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you soon.